This presentation explores how Canada's leadership within the G7 on critical minerals represents a strategic shift in our economic and geopolitical positioning. While the conversation often focuses on supply chain diversification, the reality is far more significant. Canada is using its critical minerals strategy to strengthen sovereignty, reduce dependence on foreign-controlled processing, and reposition the country as a central player in high-value global industries. This presentation outlines why this initiative matters, how Canada is acting, and what it means for our long-term competitiveness. Yes, it is true that Canada's G7-aligned critical minerals initiative goes far beyond supply chain diversification. The evidence shows that the strategy is anchored in protecting national economic sovereignty and establishing Canada as a competitive leader in emerging global industries such as batteries, clean tech, semiconductors, and defense. Canada is not simply seeking more suppliers, it is reshaping its industrial base, reducing strategic vulnerabilities, and increasing control over essential value chains that will define the 21st century economy. Canada recognized that reliance on a single dominant player, particularly China, in mineral processing creates systemic risks for advanced economies. The G7's Critical Minerals Action Plan, launched in June 2025, identified resilient, market-based supply chains as essential to economic and national security. By prioritizing domestic processing, refining, and manufacturing, Canada is moving beyond extraction and asserting itself as a leader in technology-rich sectors. These measures protect our economy from external pressure points and ensure we have sovereign control over essential inputs that power batteries, electric vehicles, renewable energy systems, and defense technologies. Canada has committed approximately $6.4 billion in new investments to accelerate critical minerals development. This includes financing for 26 strategic projects across the country focused on mining, processing, refining, and advanced manufacturing. Canada is also forming long-term partnerships with allied nations for offtake agreements in minerals like graphite and scandium, ensuring predictable demand. Streamlined regulatory pathways and new standards for responsible production, including environmental and labor criteria, strengthen Canada's competitive position. By anchoring more of the value chain domestically, Canada is transforming itself from a raw material supplier into a hub for advanced, high-value industries. By strengthening its critical minerals capabilities across the entire value chain, Canada gains greater economic autonomy and reduces its vulnerability to geopolitical disruptions. Companies operating within Canada benefit from proximity to clean electricity, stable regulatory environments, and collaboration with like-minded partners. This enhances Canada's ability to compete for global battery, EV, and aerospace investment. In addition, by controlling more of the processing and refining stages, Canada captures more economic value and reinforces its global standing as a trusted, democratic source of critical resources. While ambitious, the strategy is still early in execution. Many of the processing projects are under development, and scaling domestic capacity will require significant private investment, strong indigenous partnerships, and streamlined permitting. Global minerals markets remain interconnected, meaning Canada cannot be entirely independent of international dynamics. Nonetheless, the direction is clear. Canada is moving aggressively to strengthen its sovereign capabilities, diversify risk, and align itself with trusted partners to build more resilient and secure supply chains. In conclusion, Canada's G7 Critical Minerals Initiative is not merely a diversification exercise, it is a foundational economic strategy. By combining investments, international partnerships, and industrial policy, Canada is asserting leadership in the next generation of global supply chains. This initiative enhances economic sovereignty, strengthens national resilience, and positions Canada as a competitive force in industries that will shape global power dynamics for decades to come. The first source, the Government of Canada's G7 Critical Minerals Action Plan, provides the core policy framework that outlines how the G7 is coordinating efforts to build resilient supply chains grounded in shared democratic values. The second source, the October 31 Government of Canada news release, details Canada's $6.4 billion in new investments and partnerships across 26 strategic projects, demonstrating the scale and seriousness of Canada's commitment. The third source, the Carbon Credits Report, highlights Canada's leadership role within the G7 and summarizes the financial, industrial, and geopolitical motivations behind these investments. Finally, the IISD's SDG Knowledge Hub offers global context and analysis, explaining how the G7 cooperation strengthens the environmental and governance standards that underpin responsible critical minerals development worldwide. Together, these sources provide the factual foundation for understanding how Canada is reshaping its economic future through strategic action in the critical minerals sector. Viewers can pause here to review how each source contributed to the analysis presented. For more fact-based content about Canadian politics, democratic health, economic trends, and rhetorical analysis, the Facts for Canadians platforms offer ongoing resources and educational material. These outlets aim to strengthen public understanding, improve media literacy, and support evidence-based democratic engagement.